You ready?
We're ready.
Okay. All right, we are back with our second week of our 7 Habits series podcast. I'm again with Pastor David here, and we will be going over our second week of the 7 Habits. So, David, it's good to be with you this week.
Thanks, Dylan.
For our podcast.
Always.
What has the response been so far with the 7 Habits meeting that we've been having?
Well, we've had a lot of folks who have prior familiarity with the 7 Habits material. It's because it's widely used in corporations for training, and the book has been around for over 30 years. However, they never thought of it in terms of their family life or their personal relationships. So I think that's what's been really cool. We had a group last night, several new people who came to the Wednesday night group at 6:30, and we always welcome more the next couple weeks, as you can always pick up. And they really liked how it would apply to managing their family as an organization, and also working with their children. And so there were several things that I've really appreciated about hearing people's feedback and how it's been a blessing for them.
Awesome. The second habit is to begin with the end in mind. Could you kind of dive deeper into that for us?
Yes, to begin with the end in mind means to have a vision and understanding of your destination in life. It means to have 2 things. There's a first creation in your life and a second creation. This is something that Stephen Covey talks about, a mental creation of your life, kind of a vision of where you're going. And the second creation is the physical creation. It's kind of like in Genesis, how God speaks the world into being. That's the mental creation. God says, let there be light. And then there's light. There's a response to it. There's a physical creation, incarnate, even in Jesus, in terms of he was the Word. It tells us in Scripture. So the Word that God used to speak creation into existence, and then in the Gospel of John, in the New Testament, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God. So God plants a vision in our heart many times, and then helps us carry it through, and calls us to implement it in the flesh. And so I think we are co-creators, we're partners with God, and so part of having that beginning with the end in mind is to realize that God already has a destiny for many of us in a place, and that he would love to partner with us to get to that destiny, and that our God-given potential is there for each and every one of us to reach it, but we kind of have to partner with God to make it happen, and that second creation, the physical creation.
Yeah, from minute 1, really, God has a goal in mind for our lives.
Yes.
And we partner with that. I like that idea there. You mentioned goals and setting goals like God does, and how we should. What are some strategies that you use yourself to achieve goals?
Yeah, so once you have a vision in mind for your life, you might be writing something like a personal mission statement or even a family mission statement. So for example, for me, my rule of life, I use the song from Godspell. It's actually based on an old prayer from the Book of Common Prayer, but but Godspell was a musical in the 70s that played out the Gospel of Matthew in musical form, and they, day by day, O Lord, each day 3 things I pray: to see thee more clearly, love thee more dearly, follow thee more nearly, day by day. So that's become my personal mission statement, to live with God each day, to pray to God each day, and then to see God in the world, to be more aware of how God's working in the world and respond to that, the calling that God gives me, to love God and to love neighbor, as we talk about here at First United Methodist Church in Mount Dora, balancing our love of God and our love of neighbor, and then also to follow God in sometimes challenging situations that he calls us to do, to do challenging things that require sacrifice, like raising children, tithing or giving. So that's becoming really important to me. And so what happens is, once you set that mission statement in place, it takes years to develop, then you have to have certain objectives that support it, and prioritize and choose. So in the coming weeks, we'll talk more about how you choose the right objectives to help you achieve your vision for your life or for your family's life. But that is to say that having a clearer sense of who I am and my personal mission statement has really helped me to follow God and place my priorities in the right place. And the things that I do in my life, I want to say yes to the things that will help me support my personal vision statement and no to the things that really don't help it at all.
And you use that word vision just now. What does it mean for listeners, watchers, anyone? What does it mean to have a vision for yourself or your family in this case?
Well, your life is a masterpiece. God created you and he called it good. It's what tells us in Genesis. And I think it helps to have two visualization exercises that we did last night in the study were very helpful. First of all, we all asked each other, if our life was a masterpiece and we looked at it at the end of our life, what would be in our masterpiece? And it would certainly be family. It would certainly be aspects of our faith, of adventure, of having, good times and achieving hard-earned goals. But it wouldn't be a whole lot of, I spent extra time at the office. No one on their deathbed would say, I really regret that I didn't spend more time at work. So when you look at that in terms of your masterpiece, you see, those are the things I'm working for, and it has very little to do with things. You're not going to see a whole lot of your possessions in your life's masterpiece. And then the other thing is, we had another visualization exercise, which was, imagine your 80th birthday party. Who's there, and what are they saying about you? What do you want people to say about you at your 80th birthday party? And that can put things in a whole different perspective.
And I hear pastors and youth ministry people a lot also talk about, but I'm sure this happens in the other work areas as well. What do you want people to remember you for? Like, what is your, what is your goal for that memory?
Yeah, your significance that has something that has eternal significance.
Right.
Exactly.
So what does a personal or family mission statement look like in your words, for people that are listening, maybe trying to figure out, okay, how could I apply this?
Sure. So a family mission statement be the Averill family exists to love God, to serve others, and we do that through adventure, through laughter, and through generosity. So, and kindness. So we've incorporated things that we love God, we love others, and then our core values, which are laughter, generosity, kindness, and adventure. Those are our 4 core values as a family.
So setting the pillars and then living off of them.
Yeah, setting those pillars, and then you live off of them, and then that becomes your vision, is that you have these values that are pillars that support your vision. So for example, the pillar of adventure, we like to frequently go places and have fun when we can, and we'll take day trips, and that helps us bond as a family. And really, we invest time in each other, and we create memories together, and really living helps us to live out who we want to be as a family.
So the biblical application, because with this 7 habits, there is a biblical application.
Always.
Who are some people in the Bible that maybe we could look to who have achieved their goals with God's guidance and kind of partnering in that goal that he has for them?
Well, I definitely think of Moses in the book of Exodus. In our church, we just had a sermon series, as you remember, on Moses and the Exodus. And Moses has this opportunity to meet God at the burning bush. He's in his 80s at that point, and God calls him and he's in the wilderness near Horeb in Mount Sinai, keeping sheep and being a shepherd. And then he sees this bush that is burning but not consumed by fire, and God calls him to it and tells him to let go to Egypt and be a deliverer, to let my people go, and this is how you should do it. And Moses wants to make plenty of excuses, but this is the call that God has placed in his life. And a call is something that, is kind of inspiring you, you have a desire, you have a heart for it, God won't call you to do something that you don't have this true desire and passion about. But it's something that you have a burning desire to do, but it won't consume you. You know, it's something positive in your life, and if you feel called to, like, you know, I want to be a painter, God can use that. You know, I mean, even looking around in this barefoot ministry area, there were people who had a passion to paint, and they helped to paint this wonderful room that you all have for the youth ministry. God will use our passion to achieve a certain vision, and many times the vision for your life will be, it's hard to explain, will come from another place. You know, all of a sudden get a thought in your head, and then you should trust that God feeling is a God-given vision that is in your life.
Yeah, we're in a series, we just started a new series yesterday called Pass It On, and we're talking about how we can share the good news of Jesus with other people. And I use the story of Tabitha, and because it's passed over a lot, not even many people even know about it if you don't study scripture type of thing. But it was interesting to look at her life, I think also for the students, because she's a widow. And back then, as we know, being a widow was usually not necessarily a death sentence in what we would understand it to be. But, you know, back then for them, it was a death sentence because they couldn't support themselves. And so you look at Tabitha making clothes, something that she enjoyed doing, and sharing those clothes with other widows and other people. And her influence with people, and the reason that she had people that cared about her was because of doing something that she enjoyed, which is making clothes for other people.
It's a perfect example.
And so we talked about how you don't have to share the good news of Christ always with just scripture or prayer, something that some people are uncomfortable with doing, but like whatever you're making clothes is for yourself, you can share God through that as well.
Absolutely, through sports. I mean, you know, you can invite your friend to the basketball court that we have here in the parking lot. It looks great, and I'm looking forward to inviting some people to play basketball.
There you go. Yep. And so we talk about that, how we can, and I always think it's that story of Moses. You know, even though 80 wasn't necessarily what 80 is now, as far as years into life. Moses wasn't a young buck at that point.
No, he wasn't.
Fortunately for him, McDonald's and Taco Bell were not a thing. So
he could live healthier.
But even back then, springing that forward into his life at 80, I always think, when I go further into that story and think about it deeper, I always think about what that would be like for him as well, you know.
Yeah, and it could come a different calling and vision. Your personal mission statement or vision for your life will change as the years go by.
Because I'm sure he was comfortable.
He was comfortable where he was, and that's where he was called at that time. But God will sometimes give a new calling to move forward.
So how can we encounter God like Moses did? How can we encounter that burning bush moment?
Well, I think that to be open in terms of youth group coming to worship, in terms of walking in nature and just being open to the signs. I can't tell you how many times going in a walk in the neighborhood just to clear my head, I've had some insights that come from God. So finding those places that are special to you, that help you reconnect and recenter yourself. Laying aside a lot of distractions can really be helpful to have a vision when you want to think about your goals and objectives. You need some quiet. So you may not want to play your heavy metal music while you're contemplating your next steps or having your visioning moment. You may want some soothing music, or maybe no music at all, more quiet.
Yeah, I have those moments when I look at clouds and or sunsets. Usually for me, I see that creation, and that's where I tie in with nature-wise. So, but yeah, to wrap things up, what a great discussion on this habit today. I'm going to start getting my personal mission statement moving along and see what that looks like, and also be open to change. Even when I'm 80, doing my comfortable sheep thing, maybe it'll change.
Yeah, it's something you can adjust as things move forward. As you move forward, your objectives are going to change, and I think that for me, yeah, I still like the Godspell rule of life that I developed several years ago, but in seminary. But it may need refining and tweaking, and for our family, it needs constant tweaking.
Yeah.
But the picture and the masterpiece that we have, the vision that we have, helps us craft that statement so that we hold each other accountable to live it together. So a lot of times it's helpful to have friends also to partner with us in the journey and help us, encourage us achieve what we want to do. So I think that's what I would also recommend is have some friends that encourage you.
Yeah, in community.
Yeah,
I think it's comforting for everybody watching, listening. That it can take a lifetime.
Absolutely.
To tweak it.
We don't have to figure it out. Moses didn't figure it out till he was 80.
Right.
So, yeah.
Well, these podcast series will be available, obviously, if you're watching. That'll be on Facebook, but we also are on Apple Music and Spotify.
Yes.
And we're also on the Google App Store as well. So you'll look for the Barefoot Student Ministries channel, and then you can find these here along with actually our Wednesday night messages that we do down here in the basement are there, and also our young adult ministry series that we do is also on there.
There's a lot of wonderful content that you all have there.
Yeah, and so it's a good way to share it with your family and friends that are not in town or are not yet going back to larger community things or have found a niche doing online type of stuff.
Or like to do it, listen to it while working out. That's what I do.
Okay.
I'm at the gym, I listen to the Barefoot podcast.
Okay, there you go. So I listen to a couple different podcasts while I'm driving.
Okay.
That's when I do mine. So anyway, you can connect with us. You can do that through our podcast series. What are we looking forward at next week? What are we looking at next week?
Next week is put first things first. Okay. So it's prioritization, like setting priorities and ranking things in our life so we can say yes to some things and maybe no to some others.
Something I need to work on. So
all of us do. All right.
We'll look forward to discussing that next week. David, again, always a pleasure. And,
thank you, Dylan.
Thank you for joining us in whatever platform you've chosen to do so.